Okay.
Classified material next to your Corvette. What were you thinking?
Let me, I'm going to get a chance to speak on all this, God willing, soon. But as I said earlier this week, people, and by the way, my Corvette's in a locked garage, okay? So it's not like you're sitting out in the street.
So
But anyway,
was in a locked garage.
yes, as well as my Corvette. But as I said earlier this week, people know I take classified documents and classified material seriously. I also said we're cooperating fully and completely with the Justice Department's review. As part of that process, my lawyers reviewed other places where documents in from my time as vice president were stored, and they finished the review last night. They discovered a small number of documents of classified markings in storage areas and file cabinets in my home and my personal library. This was done in the case of the Biden Penn. This was done in the case of the Biden Penn Center. The Department of Justice was immediately, as was done, the Department of Justice was immediately notified, and the lawyers arranged for the Department of Justice to take possession of the document. So we're going to see all this unfold. I'm confident.
Okay, so a couple of days ago, the discovery of classified documents at Joe Biden's former office at his university think tank caused headlines. All together now, because of course he did. This discovery was actually made way back on November 2nd of 2022. You know, a few days before the midterm. Yet the information was blatantly hidden by the agencies to protect their Democrat masters from any electoral harm. This is yet even more proof of how compromised and politicized various, well, actually all of our government agencies are. Instead of being watchdogs for the people, they have devolved into power-hungry traitors for the Democrats' American takeover. When norms are frequently violated, like on the daily, they cease to cause shock among the public, and it almost, well hell, it really is becoming a new standard now, isn't it? Hence, it's vital to state how scandalous it is that government agencies that have a duty to serve citizens are instead suppressing vital information from citizens prior to the midterms that could inform their voting decisions. The agencies, once again, interfered in national elections to help the Democrats. Now, unexpectedly, various Democrat mouthpieces and the subsequent media coverage were actually critical of their Lord and Master Joe Biden. It must have been out of pure boredom with the news cycle. Okay, so following the unprecedented Mar-a-Lago raid, NBC's presidential historian implied that President Trump deserved the death penalty, despite the fact that there was no claim or proof that Trump was in possession of classified documents at the time. You may recall this tweet from Michael Beslash. Rosenbergs were convicted for giving U.S. nuclear secrets to Moscow and were executed June 1953. A retired general and former director of the CIA and the NSA appeared to concur with the historian's murderous fantasy. He tweeted out, "Sounds about right." Now, neither of these pundits have the cojones to tweet a word about Biden's mishandling of classified materials, because of course they haven't. The historian is currently trolling Republicans on Twitter. The supposed general is currently displaying his gross insensitivity by retweeting ludicrous claims about the recently departed Trump supporter, Lynette Hardaway, aka Diamond, of Diamond and Silk. More than a few observers were baffled and bewildered that Biden, who is among the least thoughtful individuals in the United States of America, could actually run a think tank. You know, at this point, I think it might be a good idea to title this video "Because of Course." You see, the purpose of the think tank became clear when it revealed that it had received $54.6 million from Chinese donors. Because of course it did. Now, all the reports about Biden's blunder made sure to state that Trump's alleged mishandling of classified documents was way graver, and I apologize for repeating myself. But of course they did. They attributed Trump's actions to malice and even attributed traitorous motives, while Biden's mishandling was an inadvertent and, rare mistake. Well, it certainly seems like that claim is now melting away into the ether. Earlier yesterday, NBC News reported that aides to Biden discovered another batch of classified documents at a location other than his think tank office. I'm making quotation marks with my fingers. Apparently, it was in his garage, I guess snuggled up next to the Mustang, according to the big guy. But hey, China Joe assured us that the garage was locked, so it's all good, right, mainstream? Also, since the discovery of classified documents last November, Biden's aides have been searching for other locations he used for possible classified materials from Biden's tenure as vice president. This time, at least so far, the Biden White House has declined to comment on the situation. Because of course they did. Hence, details of the classified level, number, and all the precise locations of these recently discovered documents, well, despite the garage revelation, remain unclear. It's also unclear if the search for other classified materials is in progress or complete. Biden's press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, refused to answer questions about the scandal, when surprisingly, the news media, apart from Peter Doocy, attempted to hold the Biden administration accountable. Here's a clip.
One more stab at this, because again, this is a lot of importance to people. The President mentioned the handling of classified information is important. These documents were discovered on November 2nd. This didn't become public until my colleagues at CBS News reported this on Monday. That's more than 2 months later. Why was the public not informed while the White House prepared its PR response for 2 months?
Again, this was under review. This is under review by the Department of Justice. I'm not going to go beyond what the President shared yesterday. I'm not going to go beyond what my colleagues at the White House Counsel shared with all of you as well. I want to be prudent here. I want to make sure that we do this in the appropriate way.
We're going to ask them because that's our job.
I understand, and my job is to answer your questions. So here we go. Let's go.
One of the reasons we asked this is because on day 2 of this administration, when he swore all of you in, the President said, quote, "I'm going to make mistakes. When I make them, I'll acknowledge them, and I'll tell you. And I'll need your help to help me correct them." So you're the one here talking to us about this. That's why we're asking you. So let's just remember that.
We don't need to have this. We work very well together. We don't need to have this kind of confrontation. Ask your question, and I will answer them the best that I can.
Part of the reason we're laying that out is because you're laying out your part of the job.
I know, but I'm just saying that we don't need to have contention. You don't need to be contentious with me here, Ed.
The President was asked yesterday, but did not answer this part of the question. Why didn't he or someone in the White House inform the American people when these documents were discovered on November 2nd? Did it have anything to do, because people are asking this part of it, did it have anything to do with the fact that the election was just a few days away?
Again, Ed, this is under review by the Department of Justice. It is literally under review right now. As I am talking to you, it is under review. So I'm not going to get beyond the process. I'm not going to get beyond what the President said.
Here, Ducey left Jean-Pierre momentarily speechless when he reminded her of Biden's words calling Trump, quote, irresponsible after the Mar-a-Lago raid. Here's clip number 2.
And then on these documents, how could anyone be that irresponsible? Isn't that what this president says about mishandling classified documents?
The President spoke to this personally. He spoke to this personally, and he believes that classified documents and information should be taken seriously. He takes them seriously, and he was surprised to learn by any records had been. I disagree. Here's what happened. Once
Then why
his.
is there a Justice Department?
Well, let me explain to you the process. Here's what happened when his lawyers found out that the documents were there. They immediately turned them over to their archives.
But they were
But
there
they
in the first place. I
immediately
understand
turned them
that
over to the
you say they
archives.
did the right thing
I'm not
when they
gonna.
figured
I'm
it
not
out.
going to go into specifics, but what I am reiterating to you is what you heard from the President yourself, Peter, which is how he saw the process and how he respects and truly respects and takes this very seriously, and when he knew and how surprised he was by it, and the actions that the right actions that the lawyers took. Again, this is under is under review by the Department of Justice, and we're going to let that process continue.
How can President Biden be trusted moving forward with America's secrets?
Because his lawyers, his team did the right thing.
But he had a closet with
His
classified
lawyers
information in
did
it
the
that
right.
they found. How did it get there?
Again,
Did the
he
lawyers
did.
do
He
the
was
right thing?
surprised that the records were there. He spoke to this
But they were
personally.
there.
He was surprised that the records were there, and when his lawyers found out and his team found out that they were there, they turned it over to the archives, and now it's being reviewed by the Department of Justice.
And
Now, what's really unusual here is that despite government agencies and the news media being loyal Democrat traitors, the discovery of these classified documents that were a result of Biden's dereliction of duty was eventually made public by agencies, yet covered by the news media. Why did they reveal information that made Biden look bad in the first place, when they could have suppressed the information forever, and nobody would have known? Well, perhaps the fact that Democrats, by hook or crook, lost far fewer seats under Biden during the midterms than they did under Obama and Clinton has deluded Biden about his abilities and popularity. And perhaps the Democrat leadership via government agencies is putting Biden back in his place. More speculation, but perhaps the Democrat leadership doesn't want Biden to run in 2024, and this is their method of coercion. Or maybe the GOP winning back the House has something to do with it. Perhaps they feared that their cover-up would be discovered. I would probably assume the latter. Let's get back to the documents. The fact that they were basically left lying around at unsecured locations for a prolonged period of time makes the risk very grave. Perhaps these documents were accessed and copied by unauthorized personnel or hostile foreign adversaries. Perhaps they were even taken out for the purpose of being shared. Perhaps Hunter Biden, on a crack bender, came into possession of these documents, which means their contents are already known by the CCP. These questions are the light, low-calorie version of what the mainstream media would be asking if the shoe was on the Donald's foot. What also should be, but sadly isn't surprising, is that Biden's aides, and not the DOJ or the FBI agents, are conducting the search for the possible remaining classified documents. Biden's lawyers discovering the classified documents on 2 occasions was itself a breach, because they did not have security clearance to access these documents. Should they discover even more, it would be a further violation. But, of course, nobody, including the DOJ, seems to really care. Now, this of course leads to questions regarding the management of classified documents by the National Archives and Records Administration. Now, ideally, they should have details of each and every classified document, including their location. Classified documents should not be allowed beyond secure premises. This raises questions if every individual is subject to the same scrutiny and checking prior to leaving secure premises. If classified documents go missing, the National Archives and Records Administration should launch a focused hunt to recover them. The fact that the documents were discovered by lawyers after at least 6 years raises serious concerns. Clearly, they do not have proper records of classified documents. Yet, after the Mar-a-Lago raids, these Democrats and their media proxies delivered numerous sanctimonious rants regarding federal office holders being required by law to relinquish classified records when their government service ends. They were making it appear that Trump was both careless and traitorous and was looking to sell the documents to foreign powers. After the raid of Mar-a-Lago, U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland said that he personally approved the decision for the FBI to execute a search warrant at President Trump's Florida residence. Garland sanctimoniously proclaimed that, quote, faithful adherence to the rule of law is the bedrock principle of the Justice Department and our democracy. Upholding the rule of law means applying the law evenly without fear or favor. Under my watch, that is precisely what the Justice Department is doing, unquote. So I guess the real question is here, will Garland enforce the laws against Biden? and raid all of his properties to recover possible classified documents? Well, obviously not. Biden won't suffer the consequences of his actions. Perhaps one of Biden's staffers will take the fall for Biden's mistake and will be pardoned by Biden after that. Late last year, Garland appointed special counsel Jack Smith to probe President Trump's alleged mishandling of classified records. Will he also be appointed as special counsel to investigate Biden's mishandling of classified records? Looks like Josh Hawley's on the same page. So obviously, a cornerstone of a civilized democracy is fair elections, where citizens have all information right up to the last minute prior to the elections. And another fundamental tenet of our civilized democracy is that all citizens, irrespective of their positions, power, or wealth, are equal before the law. It's become pretty obvious, at least to those that would be watching my video, those seemingly absolute principles are rapidly eroding before our eyes. Now, in closing, the complete mishandling of classified information. Now, this is classified information held for 6+ years by a vice president that should not have, in any circumstances, this classified information, let's be clear. Moving on, the cover-up that followed prior to a national election, and the lack of any punitive action against Biden or his staff, all deserve to be investigated. But the question, folks, is, with our new House, will the GOP be brave, meticulous, and focused enough to do the job this time around? I guess we'll see. Most of this came by way of the American Thinker. If you liked it, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Leave a comment down below. There's a PayPal link in the description box, so please put $1 in the bucket on the way out the door. I'd like to thank everyone for all your donations. Much needed and much appreciated. Now, with all that being said, we'll see you next time.
Come on, move. Move. Easy, easy.